when there isn't this reasonable recourse, then one can specify the right of divorce within the marriage itself. This can be unconditional. To have an unconditional right of divorce. Jack marries Jill, right? So he says, so Jill says, I, Jill bint Bill, agree to marry you, offer to marry you, that, with the stipulation of an unconditional right of divorce. Or she could mention it with the conditions agreed upon, and this is put in writing. Right? So it could be an unconditional right of divorce. Of course, this has the downside that anytime she's upset and she chooses to exercise the right of divorce, it counts, because divorce counts. So it depends, right? If you want it, it's there. But it can be dangerous. Or to have a conditional right of divorce, which is that any conditions that you stipulate, if they're not met, or if any particular things that happen, then if that happens, you can exercise the right of divorce. It could be anything. It says, if you ever drink pina colada, I will... No, so that's... Okay, so we'll get to that with the marriage agreement. It is up to the two parties. If she says, let's say she's allergic to pina colada. Right? Does he have a right to drink pina colada? Yeah. But she says, if you drink pina colada, I have... Because the marriage is a contract. So she could stipulate the right of divorce on anything. Now, should she? That's a separate matter. But anything that's within the realm of the permissible, there's different opinion on the scholars. Can you condition the permissible? In a contract, you can. In a contract, that you can. Yeah. So we look at so it can be anything. It can be anything. That, for example, let's say there's a sister who was, since childhood, she was very active in the community. If you prevent me from pursuing my Islamic studies or from being active in the community without neglecting my duties as a wife, I will exercise the right of divorce. Now, one shouldn't be like, divorce is like, one shouldn't be trigger happy with divorce. So one shouldn't say like, if you don't cook for me, I will divorce you. Shouldn't do things like that. But there's certain significant conditions. There's certain significant conditions. 4 that are commonly mentioned. One is in the case of abuse. In the case of abuse. If there's clear physical or other abuse, and then one can define it more fully. I wouldn't say it in the spoken contract, but in the written contract, one could even give a stipulation of that. Now, there's difference between a mistake and abuse. And one does not, it is wrong to allow oneself to remain in a situation of abuse, Islamically. So, if that happens, this is one of the cases. Of course, before even one exercises the right of divorce, one gets out of a situation of harm. Because what happened once will happen again. So it requires it requires addressing. So that's, that would be outside the scope. What does one do in abusive situations, etc.? We deal with it in our Islamic marriage courses, but this is one of the situations that one wants to cover. If there's physical or other types of abuse, and it gets very bad. Right? Like, the second is consistent non-provision. Consistent non-provision. Many people, sadly, are negligent. I have someone, I tried hard to convince them otherwise, but this is true in some cultures, that they have misinterpretation of religious teachings, but also they have a tribal sense. Because there's a hadith that is wrongfully used that أَنْتَ وَمَالُكَ لِأَبِيكَ. You and your property are your father's. And some of our literalist brethren, we can call the BADs, the brethren who are attitudinally divergent, they have these misinterpretations that you and your property are your father's. Firstly, that could not literally be true, because you are your father's. Can you sell your own property? Yes. Can you sell off your children? No. So you don't legally belong to your parents. So it's not the first part, that you are your parents' is not legally true. You're your parents', you're their children. Okay? And your wealth is your children's. That does not apply. Can your father just sell your house? No. Can your father just take your money? No. Right? So the vast majority of the scholars, besides a literalist minority, affirm that this hadith is to emphasize the greatness of the parents' rights. But it's not literally meant necessarily. So, non-provision, giving the whole check to the parents but not providing for one's wife. But of course, one needs to know what are the Islamic limits of reasonable provision, because some people can just be very negligent. One of the very practical ways, if the husband is earning, one of the ways to avoid dispute is give a monthly amount to the wife. What she does with her monthly amounts, up to her. She wants to just drink pina colada daily. You could give her advice that too much so many sweetened drinks may lead to diabetes or whatever, but it's her money. She can do whatever she wants with it. What's your money? It's a different matter. Third is disappearance. Disappearance. He just disappeared. Whether due to contingencies, he got in jail. Or some people decide to move back home. And they can't be heard from. Right? So, in that kind of situation, it can then be difficult to how do you track him down and this and that. If you specify the conditional right of divorce, all you have to do is you can just pronounce it alone in the room. You record yourself in video. It says, I, Jill bint Bill, hereby divorce myself from Jack ibn Beanstalk. That's it. She's out of the marriage. Now she does her iddah, and that's done. Okay, so that simplifies. The fourth is any other terms that they agree to. And this could include the terms that are in the marriage agreement. Okay. I've dealt with situations where a sister, the husband says, I'm not emotionally ready for children, 10 years into the marriage. She wants to have children. Or other things. Right? So, properly speaking, as the sister asked, these should be things that are of significance. But it could be things that are insignificant.
لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله